will require you to watch other elements of the fight. The cast bar, however, is a huge part of it and will handle the vast majority of the game outside of hard mode content. Depending on your preferences, you may want to make the enemy list more prominent instead. It also contains cast bars for enemies, and you absolutely can click on them to quick target the enemies that are casting. I do recommend going through the menus yourself. However, I did notice that they were generally overwhelming to new players, so I went ahead and clicked around them. So as I said earlier, upon entering the game, a series of cutscenes will play. Some are voiced, some are not. This is where I frequently hear the most common pitch moment in Final Fantasy XIV, the large swath of unvoiced content. I'm not here to sell you the game. They aren't paying me to sell you the game. They aren't paying me at all. So that's their advertising that my hobby keeps paying for itself. Players not familiar with the classic Final Fantasy games or other popular JRPGs will often find this game's overwhelming amount of unvoiced dialogue very jarring. In World of Warcraft, it was standard procedure for the vast majority of MMO players to ignore the page of text that pops up when a quest master gave it to you. Just click through it, knowing that any important dialogue will be presented as in-game voice acting. In the Elder Scrolls Online and MMOs designed like it, all, or at least the majority of dialogue, is basically all voice. This is not the case in Final Fantasy XIV. 14 has several novels worth of unvoiced dialogue, with voice sections being reserved for important sections of the main quest. But back to quit moments. A quit moment is the thing that drives a player to, as the title would indicate, quit a video game. In a live service, it is something Western developers fear more than anything. It is something they are mandated by their bosses to avoid happening. Veteran members of gaming communities will often call these quit moments filters. That person was a filter. They got filtered, they would say. The pre-expansion main quest content of Final Fantasy XIV is a filter, and other games will be going out of their way to avoid subjecting players to a filter once it is identified. Elder Scrolls Online, for example, realized their base game content wasn't that good compared to their later content. It was extremely rough, so they released their first major expansion-priced DLC, known as the Morrowind Chapter, and set it up so that players started there instead of the main game content. This made sure that new players could get invested in the higher quality content before being released into the lower quality content or being asked to pay more for newer expansion-priced DLC. In Final Fantasy XIV terms, it's why Heavensward is being included in the free trial. However, because Final Fantasy XIV is a character-heavy, narrative-driven JRPG, the base game is where you get to know those characters. And for Final Fantasy XIV, its greatest value is an experience where you got to know them and lived in the world long enough. As a result, they can't just skip you directly to Heavensward because then you'll be missing out on that experience. You will not have a shared history with these NPCs. Therefore, you cannot go on the emotional journey with them that Heavensward asks you to go. I mentioned that Final Fantasy XIV does not follow the real game begins at max level mentality that World of Warcraft has employed since its inception. That is because a character-driven narrative can't work that way. The development of the characters are what allows the story to make sense and causes the player to go on that emotional journey. In the year 2004, World of Warcraft was centered around the player as an adventurer, conceptually a single unit of the Warcraft real-time strategy game. So there was an air of mystery about what you were doing, the actions you had. The player's story was the most important thing. Not the world story, not the characters around you. You and your experience was the player's story. In an environment like that, rushing to max level is fine because you still had more player stories to tell. But World of Warcraft, starting around Cataclysm in 2010, all the way through Shadowlands in 2020, fell into the trap of trying to make its game like Final Fantasy. I'm not saying it copied 14, that would be impossible, but rather, they naturally went into the same direction. That is to say, their NPC characters became increasingly important to the stories Blizzard wanted to tell, to the point that they eclipsed the player's role in the story, emotional journey where you came to understand the NPCs and their relationship to you, the player. That simply wasn't the kind of game World of Warcraft was ever. So I mentioned ESO or World of Warcraft at all. Well, in ESO, you can see how the filter was avoided entirely. And you can see how World of Warcraft, how a person going into the game with World of Warcraft expectations will find Final Fantasy XIV incompatible with their desire to skip right to the action. The player in 14 is as much a part of the world and as important to the world as are the other characters. All of it is a flowing narrative. So, Final Fantasy XIV's filter cannot be changed. Not how the story is written, not with how the game is designed. It centers around the story. The only thing they could do to retain more players is to invest the money to get most of the content voiced. And that would be very expensive and it would increase the file size of the game. Maybe make it an optional download. That's basically all they could do. So, if it can't be changed, why tell people there's a filter at all? Well, telling players about it changes your temperament as a player. When you know there is one, you can choose to say, no, that game isn't for me, in which case, fair on you. Or, you can choose to challenge and overcome it. If you can complete Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, and reach the first expansion pack, also contained in the free trial, named Heavensward. Heavensward is much, much better. Not to mention 2 or 3 people frustratingly typing up how much they liked the base game in Final Fantasy XIV. Don't worry, you are not alone. However, even if you believe that Realm Reborn is well written, which I do not, it would question your judgment if you did not at least agree that the expansion packs, especially Heavensward, are far superior to Realm Reborn. So let's get one of the most contentious questions in the community out of the way right now, before we move on to the rest of the guide. Is it okay to skip cutscenes and dialogue? The answer is yes. At the end of the day, it's incumbent upon you, the player, to enjoy the game however you want. And the ability to click through dialogue and skip cutscenes exists for players who quite frankly couldn't give a damn. Play the way you want. You will be missing out on a rich world with fairly incredible world building for the small scope and scale the story is telling, but everyone comes to games for different reasons, and if story isn't your cup of tea, then skipping is fine. That said, if you want my personal opinion on the matter, a more nuanced take, which will be sure to enrage a few people, in the content of Realm Reborn, known as the 7th Umbral Era questline, and the 7th Astral Era questline that comes after it, I would recommend assessing if the cutscene is voiced or not. Voice dialogue is pretty important. Listen to it. If the content is unvoiced, determine if it's just exposition or is it part of an action set piece. There are countless times you are sent to talk to someone, and then sent to talk to someone else, and then sent back to your original quest master. While all of this content helps set the tone of the world and the people who live in it, there is an overwhelming amount of it, to the point where many players become numb to it, and see the NPCs who they're talking to as walls they need to climb over to get to the next action piece, to the next dungeon, to the next trial, not people to talk to. Things will flip on their head once you reach Heavensward. But despite that, the volume, the amount of dialogue never changes. That is to say, there is just as much of it. However, the dialogue is of higher quality and substance. Therefore, I recommend not skipping Heavensward main quest dialogue. This is some of the best JRPG you are going to get in this or any other video. So when, in my opinion, should a chronic skipper stop skipping? In my opinion, the Black Wolf's Ultimatum, a level 46 quest. Pay attention to that through until Realm Reborn's credits play. As for Realm Reborn's post-patch quests, that is to say the level 50 ones after the credits play, I'd say Heretical Harassment is a good time to start paying attention. That's when Heavensward starts to get set up. And Heavensward's writing is in excess better than anything Realm Reborn can offer, so while you may have to do a few more quests of Realm Reborn, you will understand Heavensward better for having those last few quests under your belt. Now, most importantly, You should know that you can always replay parts of the story later. As soon as you finish the level 50 quest that completes the on-release content of Realm Reborn, you can talk to the wistful Whitebeard outside the Waking Sands in Western Thanalan, and New Game Plus will unlock. From there on out, you can click on Duty, click on New Game Plus, and it'll put you into a mode where you can replay parts of the story you've already completed. So if you just aren't feeling parts of the story, don't worry. There are plenty of other reasons to play, and it will progressively unlock as you continue through the main story. Not everyone needs to be a fan of the narrative or the characters, regardless of how much the community sings their praises, or I sing their praises. Although you'll be tethered to your starting area for the most part until main quest level 15, there are a couple activities that one can do that begin opening up around that time. One of the activities you may notice the moment you get out of the city into the wild are fates. They are world events that occur at certain times and have a goal to accomplish, usually killing a certain number of monsters, killing a boss, collecting a certain number of items, and turning them out. The system was so ubiquitous that games like Fallout 76 lifted these systems whole for their open worlds. We'll get to important things like shared fate system, rare fates, and the Blue Mage class, and how they relate to fates later. But all you really need to know right now is under level 10, if other players are doing a fate, depending on its level in relation to yours, it may be a nice quick boost of EXP. Otherwise, it should be ignored in favor of the main quest. After you've completed a couple class quests, the hunting log will unlock. It can be accessed on the log's menu, and is the most effective way to level up at low levels. This won't be too important for whatever class you decide to do the main quest on, but it will allow you to power level into alternate classes fairly quickly in the absence of that main quest to do on the class. The hunting log will unlock in sections, and each subsequent section will have a level requirement that will also require you to complete all previous entries. Finding each hunt target is as easy as running your cursor over the hunting log entry, which will display the location of the target. The hunting log has separate categories for each of the starting classes, so there's no reason not to do all the hunts as soon as you see them, because as soon as you switch classes, you will have another set of hunts to do. If you zoom in on your zone map, you will see more specific names. For example, Laurel and Riska has a section that is marked called God's Grip. These specific names will sync up with the hunt target locations when you mouse over them on your log. So you'll have a general idea of where the hunt targets are located at all times. A little symbol will appear over the head of any hunt targets you are close enough to do. So when you see one, you should kill that until the symbol disappears. It usually takes 2 to 4 kills for that to happen. Every hunt target entry you complete will give you a small burst of experience points with a large burst of EXP when all entries on a section have been completed. The purpose of the rank 1 log is to help you power level to level 10 as quickly as possible. Section 2 of the log will open at level 10. Although the log will provide more supplementary EXP at this point, there are other options for gaining EXP that will become available to you. Next we have guild leaves. Guild leaves, or levies, unlock at main quest level 9, along with the in-rooms. In-rooms are nice, by the way, you should use them. As you get further through the game, they will be more useful. Once guild levies unlock, at the Adventurers Guild in your capital city, immediately head out to the Horizon or Swiftburg. This will send you out on a mini event. Once the event is complete, you'll be able to complete the quest and unlock levies in that zone. Battle leaves are basically that event you just did as a way to earn chunks of experience and money appropriately. They're an alternative for players who do not like dungeon content and want to be able to benefit more from the open world. We'll talk about crafting leaves later, but for now, at levels 9 through 10, they are practically worthless, best ignored like fates. The real reason to do this quest to unlock them will be followed up by a second quest titled Simply the Hest. Once completed, the Duty Finder will unlock and give you access to queued group content in the form of guild hests. These are quick, usually under 2 minutes quick, easy 4-player dungeons that act more as tutorials for the real 4-player content to be done later. They also provide a nice boost of EXP for your first time completing them on any class, meaning every alternate class you want to level up, you can take them through this, starting at level 10. Every 5 levels, a new set of 2 guild tests will unlock, but the 2 you unlock at level 10 will help ease you into group content in an unbelievably simple way. As I mentioned earlier, upon completing class quest level 10, you'll unlock the ability to unlock other classes by way of blue quests in those capital cities. These classes will start at level 1, but through the use of the hunting log to level 10, and a combination of hunting log and guild tests to level 16, you can easily get the alternate classes up to par. If for any reason you feel EXP is lacking in this low-level bracket and your hunting log is complete, you can spend guild leave allowances to supplement the experience you've been getting from other sources. Note that every guild leave you want to do will cost an allowance, as seen at the bottom of your quest journal. You acquire 3 allowances every 12 hours, and the allowances will cap at 100. For battle leaves, this will only be an issue if you were planning on leveling all the base classes at the same time, which is not recommended for new players. The allowances exist more as an economic balance, since max level crafting leaves pay very well. When you hit character level 15, regardless of what main quest step you're on, you can go visit the smith located in the Adventurers Guild of each capital city, or at several dungeon entrances in the open world outside of those capital cities. Upon talking to the smith, provided you meet the level requirements, the Hall of the Novice will unlock in the main menu under Duty. By clicking into the menu, you can instantly enter a solo tutorial on group content. This will walk you through 5 to 8 steps, depending on the role. 5 steps for healers, 7 for damage dealers, and 8 steps for tanks. Each step completed will reward you with experience, and most steps will reward you with an armor piece, which is better than anything you will acquire normally through your leveling progression up to this point, unless someone has given you very good crafted gear. The final test, which combines all of the earlier steps, will reward you with a unique brand new ring that you should equip immediately and hold on to for all alternate classes you may want to level up later. This ring not only boasts stats that are higher than a standard level 15 item, but it will also increase experience gains by 30% until level 31. Non-crafted jewelry is known for being bad before level 50, so this should be a mainstay for your entire low-level experience. You are encouraged to run the Hall of the Novice for every role you unlock in addition to your main one. So if you took advantage of the Marauder start switching to Arcanist, you can complete it 3 times, 1 for each role. Gear is actually very important and a considerable part of your character's power. Not only is a certain threshold of gear required to enter certain instanced areas like dungeons, but gear itself will be a large factor in determining how easily you personally find content to be. People in the community will argue over the impact of specific stats over other stats, and there are merits in those arguments for advanced players pushing hard mode content. That said, for the average player, a shorthand for how effective gear is can be found under defenses and above the requirements for that gear. That small strip that says item level in all capitals will tell the average player everything they need to know about how effective a gear piece is in relation to another piece of gear. So if you haven't been doing this already, make sure when acquiring a new piece of gear to go to your character sheet and hit the recommended gear button to equip that new gear. Once equipped, you want to hit the gear set button and create a new set. Anytime you update your gear, go back in and right-click on the gear set in question and then select Reassign Gear. This will make sure that the latest, most up-to-date gear is bound to your character class. Whenever you unlock a new character class, be sure to do the same thing for that class. Equipping a weapon is what defines what class you are. So after equipping a new weapon and then selecting the recommended gear, make sure you add a new gear set. This will automatically be labeled with the class name, and when your class gets a job unlocked, be sure to overwrite the old class with the new job. which will include the job stone equipped in its slot. We'll talk about jobs soon. Gear sets can be dragged from your character sheet to one of the hotbars to quick swap between them, making switching classes very quick and painless. Note, this can't be done in combat or in instanced areas such as duties, unless the duty itself allows it as an exception. There'll be a couple big ones that do allow that toward the end of the video. New and old gear pieces alike will be placed into your armory chest, accessed on the character menu, not your standard inventory. Items with the little page next to them are bound to gear sets, and you should avoid selling them or getting rid of them. In this sense, the gear set mechanic helps you keep track of your items, making mistakes, throwing away the wrong ones less likely. As you fight, and more so if you die, your gear will take durability damage. When gear hits 0% durability, you will no longer get any benefits for it being worn unless repaired. Note that repair NPCs can repair your gear up to 100%, while other players work differently. A player who has their crafting class levels high enough may consume a resource called dark matter that they buy at NPC vendors to repair gear. The cost of dark matter is typically significantly less than repairing the gear at an NPC, especially for higher level gear. The crafting class and the level required to execute the repair is listed on the gear item under repair level. Additionally, a player-made repair works differently. It adds 100% durability to your current durability status, meaning if the item is at 99% durability and a crafter repairs it, the item will now be at 199% durability and will last a lot longer before needing to be repaired. If you know a player in your party can and is willing to execute a repair, you can right-click on them and click Request Repair. Much like a trade, you can choose to pay them for this repair or not. Craft repairs honestly aren't done very often among strangers, but it's good to know about the function regardless. No matter your starting area, main quest level 14 will pitch you against a boss battle and introduce you to one of your future companions, although a different one depending on the city-state you started in. Then spirit you away to a celebration where you will learn about your destiny, in more or less detail depending on the city-state. As you know, cutscene skipping is a point of contention within the player base, although I would urge you not to skip the celebration as it is core to the plot. You can, however, tell, due to the fact that it's voice acted, that it is important. The unvoiced scene afterward is less so. Regardless, once you've completed that bit of story, you will be given an airship pass and sent to the other city-states as an envoy. You will be required to visit these cities in a quest-driven order. I recommend not only unlocking the central aetherite, but all the Ethernet shards in each capital city before moving on to the next. When the cycle is complete, you will be able to airship travel anywhere, anytime, provided you spend the money. There will be a way to always fly to Ul'dah for free, but we'll get into that later. Airship travel is, on the whole, much cheaper than teleportation fees. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't ever teleport. If there's a particular location you tend to teleport to, you should consider setting it as your home point by using the Aetherite. It will allow you to use the return ability to return there. Barring that, you can set 2 favored destinations, which will cut the required amount in half. These can be changed anytime, although you should save them for locations you visit frequently. You can also register for a 3rd favored destination if you get the Final Fantasy XIV companion cell phone app for Android or iOS. You do not need to register for the premium features to get access to the 3rd favored destination, and I would advise against it, as in general the app itself is a standard Square Enix cash grab scheme. That said, there's no reason you can't install it, link your account, sign in, then close it and never open it again, while benefiting from the 3rd favored destination. Finally, you can register for a free destination if you use an authenticator, known as a one-time password. In account management, you can tie your account to a Google, Microsoft, or other authentication software for your cell phone for free. If you don't have a compatible device, you can purchase a token to tie to your account for roughly $15 at the time of posting this from the Square Enix store. Unlike the return ability, there is no cooldown for your free destination, so you'll be able to use it to teleport as often as you want. My strategy with the free destination is to base it around the current hub for my current content, i.e. Mordana at level 50, Ishgard at 51 to 60, and so on. Additionally, placing your free and home points in strategic locations near other travel points can reduce the cost of teleporting to these locations, or eliminate the cost entirely if you're willing to travel manually. Finally, later on, there will be consumables that you will be able to spend in place of teleportation fees. This is great when an open-world activity wants you to choose between a 10-minute trip or a 1,500 gil fee. It will be quite possible, although not super easy, to stock these up to insane levels and never pay for an expensive teleport again. After you complete the Envoy quests in Call of the Sea, an optional quest will unlock in Limsa titled Rising to the Challenge. It is highly recommended you complete this quest immediately to unlock the challenge log. Added to the logs menu, the challenge log is split into several categories that are tracked automatically and refreshed on a weekly basis. The further you get into the game, the more sections of it will be available to you. In the beginning, the parts you should be aware of are Feeling Lucky, complete 3 roulette dungeons, Dungeon Master, complete 5 dungeons, your Hest Around 1 and 2 while doing guild hests, and Exercising the Right, which is to give other players commendations in dungeons. All of these weekly challenges will give you 5 to 15% of your current level in EXP, and 1,000 or more gil. Free EXP toward your level, and money for doing things you would be doing anyway, is a good deal. People who enjoy PvP, or player versus player combat, should know that basically every PvP mode has its own challenges for PvP currency, wolf marks, which will unlock all kinds of cosmetic rewards. We'll touch on PvP later. Fates, levy quests, crafting, gathering, all have challenge log entries as well. The vast majority of activities you think to do, there's a weekly challenge related to them. The Gold Saucer also has a section on the challenge log. The Gold Saucer is a theme park and casino that unlocks by the quest It Could Happen to You in Ul'dah. It is a quick and simple quest that unlocks the Gold Saucer travel from any of the 3 capital cities, as well as the first expansion city. This quest will require that you go through the World of Wonders to unlock travel out of the Gold Saucer. It is a simple quest. It's a simple tour of the place. It is important to note here that unlocking this, you will now have access to free travel to Ul'dah from anywhere. Travel from the Gold Saucer to Ul'dah is free, and travel to the Gold Saucer is free from any other location. This means that using the Gold Saucer as a relay point, you can travel to Ul'dah for free from the other capital cities. To preempt this, no. At the time of posting, there is no pay to win at the Gold Saucer. Unlike retainers, it is not possible to spend real-life money in any way, nor do the Gold Saucer games in any way give you a mechanical advantage for the rest of the game. In fact, to curb the disparity between players, you can only spend up to 5,000 gil to purchase in-saucer currency, provided you are under 500 MGP. This purchase mechanism exists merely to stop you from being wiped out of Gold Saucer currency completely. Now you may be wondering, what is the point of an entire zone of minigames and player activities if they won't increase your character powers? The answer is cosmetics. The Gold Saucer not only boasts a large offering of cosmetic rewards that can be applied via the in-game glamour system, but the game also has a tendency to add new rewards every few months, or use MGP for limited time event sales of seasonal cosmetics. The easiest ways to acquire MGP in the Gold Saucer are the mini cactus at the main desk, which acts as a logger's extractor that can be done 3 times per day. Both the cactus board, which is an actual lottery, and the faction report can be done weekly. Outside of those, there are events known as gates. Gates are a play on fate. They are limited time mini-games that pop up every 20 minutes, on the hour as well as the 20 and 40 minute marks past the hour. With the exception of Air Force One, all other gates will feature other players doing the gate as well as yourself. Now, barring any of those other things, if you need to fill your MVP quickly for something, there are 6 mini-games you can play that are small machines littered about the saucer. They cost MVP to play, but winning at them will give you more than you spend. Outside the Million Squares, you can find Out on a Limb, which is a heavily skill-based game and allows you to make a disproportionately high amount of MGP with a higher player skill compared to other minigames, with the exception of Finer Miner, which you could also try instead. These were both the gathering class mechanics from the now defunct 1.0 version of the game that was replaced with the release of Realm Reborn. The order I listed these in aren't necessarily how fun or involved they are, but rather based on their mechanical payout versus effort. So let's talk about fun activities that aren't exactly the most rewarding, but are genuinely super fun. The first is the triple trad game. Games like Elder Scrolls Online got a lot of flack for basing the marketing of one of their demi expansions around a card game. Comparatively speaking, triple trad came out of almost nowhere alongside the rest of the Gold Saucer's activities. Although the card game can be picked up in Card Square, and official tournaments against other players will be held there with leaderboards and everything, triple trad can basically be played anywhere in the world. Many locations have NPCs waiting to play with you. And as you do other quest lines, NPCs that previously didn't offer triple trad matches may now want to play. These NPCs will often have unique cards you can't get anywhere else. So all the way to current expansion, you can go on a globe-trotting card-playing adventure to expand your card collection. And yes, these activities will earn you a bit of MGP even while outside the Gold Saucer. The cards honestly come from everywhere, not just from MGP. Even dungeons, trials, raid bosses can drop them. Although inconsequential, it bears mentioning that most capital city inns and taverns also allow you to challenge other players to matches. So playing for fun is an option. Next up is Chocobo Racing. Note that the Chocobo you use for Chocobo Racing is not your Chocobo mount and battle card, but rather a special racing Chocobo. In the Gold Saucer, you can pick up the So You Want to Be a Jockey quest. Much like the Palace of the Dead, Chocobo Racing is its own game mode, full of complexities, from randomly rolling desirable abilities as your Chocobo ranks up, to giving the Chocobo the proper feed and training, to finally retiring your Chocobo and breeding a new one. Since this mode has no impact on the rest of the game, I won't be covering it in detail here. I just thought I'd mention that it is in the free trial, and some people make Chocobo Racing the focus of their entire game. Finally, I'll leave a mention for Lord of Verminion. Unlike Chocobo Racing, it's not in-depth enough to be considered its own core gameplay loop, but rather a mini-game like Triple Triad. Specifically a real-time strategy or MOBA game that uses minions or mini-pets that you've acquired on your character. It is not an efficient way to collect MGP unless you participate in tournaments you queue up for against other players across the data center. There is also Mahjong. Nothing special. Just a video game replication of the real-life tabletop game Mahjong. Queue up for matches or tournaments, play with other players. It's safe to say that there's plenty to do for fun in the Gold Saucer. If your goal is to earn cosmetics, outfits, pets, mounts, there are several ways to obtain MGP fairly quickly, but a lot of these modes exist just for you to enjoy yourself. To take a break from dungeon crawling or whatever you've decided